Right, so we're out. The airbrush is ready. Just needs a quick clean over. A bit of a OCD, I suppose, a little bit, but I just like to have it nice and clean, looking clean as well as everything else. So that's it. It's all ready to run. Okay. So let's get our, what we're going to go in for is ALK 302 primer and microfiller for our first part. What we're going to do, we're going to prime our whole fuselage up. So I'll prime it in front of the camera because other parts can be done off. Don't bore you to death with all those. So we've given our paint a good shake. I put a little bit too much in, but hey ho. Compressor is never been touched. It's still at 8 to 10 psi. That's what seems to work best for me. So I'm going to quickly do a few bits that are ready, so they can dry, so I can turn them over, and then we're going to come into our phantom. Now we've got rid of all the dust. We give it a wipe down with some cloths. Make sure there's nothing on there, lint free stuff. Checking our throw, which is nice. We're just going to put a very thin coat of primer over the whole of our phantom, our model, however you like to see it. Move it out a little bit so you can see it a bit better. So what we're looking for here, I don't know why I'm spraying that canopy, it doesn't need spraying. We're just putting a coat down just to see what our seams are like on the nose and all over the body. We just need to get, like I said, I've always said I prefer to prime at all times. Because it gives you a chance to see what the top paintwork's going to actually look like. Now, there are a few people who seem to struggle using this primer. The main problem, I think, is the air pressure and spraying too far away. With this primer you need to be under a couple of inches away, air pressure down to my usual, which is about 8 to 10 psi, and don't overspray heavily. That way you won't get that grainy effect, and I have been able to replicate it for a few people, so I know that's what causes it. So basically this is my way, the way that I stopped to do it. I'm not spraying too heavily, very light coats, getting everything in. I don't mind it a little bit mottly, a little bit fine, because that all adds to the end work. As you see, I'm missing out the clamshell. I'm not going to spray that because I'll come back with black microfiller and primer shortly. But everything else is getting a coat all the way around the model to see the issues. I've seen one issue, which is this area here, which we'll put some filler in. That was a little bit tight originally. And straighten up the P2 tubes when we got the paint on her. So all we're doing is laying our paint down and getting a basic grey brick, if you like. It's literally just, as I say, for something for our main paintwork to adhere to, and also that look of just basically see what we're doing, how much we've missed, if we've missed anything, if anything needs sorting out, any areas, which I'm sure there will be. Nah, me. Sorry about the compressor kicking in. So I will get a silent one when I can afford it. There we go, there we are. So we're getting in every little area, all different angles, just so that we can get some paint on it. Getting paint everywhere, in every nook and cranny that needs it. Just hold down my canopy a little bit because that's not doing what I wanted to do. Have a look at that part. That needs sorting in a moment. So there are a few little bits to sort out which we wouldn't have seen until we got primer on there. So I'll finish priming this up and the smaller parts, and I'll come back and hopefully be ready for other parts. Right, next job. What I've done, I've been over everything, I've dealt with what I want to deal with. We've got all the primer down, we give it a little sand right over it, all looking sweet now. Very happy the way things are looking. Now the next job is to do some pre-shading. Now pre-shading is a love it or hate it affair. I personally like it. I find it very therapeutic, to be truthful. So what I'm going to do is just a quick run through and go for it. So I've got a 0.15 Iwata AH airbrush, HPAH. Now this is ideal for small areas, backfilling with camouflage and everything else, but I like it specifically for this. So what we're going to do, we're going to lay some paint down. Now just remember, this doesn't have to be perfect. We're only trying to get an effect, so that's the reason I like this idea. Now I'm just going to do this wing under camera because it's going to take a while to do this. This is very heavily detailed, this model. Oop, there. Don't have to worry about too much, that'll come back to us. Just trying to show you what we do. We don't want it uniform, so no line has to be the same, and all we're doing, as I said, we're just looking for an effect. That's all this is about, looking for an effect all the time. So all we're doing is just following panel lines. Get a bit more pressure. I did turn the pressure down by the control valve on the airbrush, but it was a little bit too low. So all we're doing, just following the lines, And we're just gonna, it's basically, I keep saying it, but I think panel lines is another one part of the weathering process. And I say it's something that I've done since day one. I've always enjoyed doing it, and I find it extremely therapeutic. So hopefully you can now get the idea of what it looks like. There was a guy on Facebook earlier, he was worried that his pre-shading wasn't perfect. That's the whole idea. Don't make it perfect. It'll look worse if it's perfect. So I'm going to carry on, get the whole thing done, and every part that needs to be done, and then we'll come back. Okay, right. So we've got our Phantom pre-shaded on the top. Now, as the underneath is quite white, we don't want black on there. So what we're going to use is a little bit darker grey. Actually, we're going to use the top coat, which is extra dark sea grey. So I'm just going to mix a little up. Make sure we don't want a lot. So got that in the airbrush. Put the lid back on there, we'll come back to that later. Made a mess as usual. Right, that's working fine. So all we're going to do now, exactly what we did on top, but with the darker grey, and we're just going to pick out the panel lines again. To just give them a little bit of a interest for the underneath colour, which would be white obviously. If we were to use black, it would just be too heavy. And it would just come across not looking right. So all we're doing, so we're just picking out the panel lines. The pressure of the compressor is still set at 8 psi. And just going around it. And all this will do is just give us something to look at rather than a blank white canvas. And you can see I'm not being picky about how I do it. It needs to be random. Otherwise it's just going to look like a jigsaw puzzle. So I'm not being over fussy. So you just go on picking out most of the lines. Any of the cubby hole hatches that are there. Coming back on the outer wing, all the way down. The outside. So we're not being fussy. Just laying the paint down. Give that inside of that the wheel well, just a little bit of pre-shading. Just to break up that white blockiness that's going to come down that otherwise. And there we go, our main bodywork is now ready to paint. So I'm going to clean up this airbrush, come back, and we'll get on with the white underneath. Okay, so I've cleaned up a little bit from what I needed to do. Everything's ready, paints are ready. What I've discovered, I've looked online about everybody building these, and it seems to me they're all building the Ark Royal version. So I'm going to be a little bit different, and we're going to go for Naval Air Support Unit, Royal Naval Air Station, Yeovilton, Somerset, England, 1969. Now, everything's the same, they're both the same, it's just the decal variants that are different. What we're going to do, we're going to break this all down now, and we're going to put on our main coats of paint. So our first step is going to be on with Alclad Mil Spec ALCE 101 Matte White. So we're going to get that down, get it onto our model, give it a good mix in the bottle. We do have ball bearings in these, so it makes a bit of difference to mix that up. White has always been a bit of a pain to paint, so hopefully we've made that just that little bit of an easier thing to do. So got that in the colour cup, clean up the bottle. I tipped it in rather than using a pipette for a change. So we've got our idea of what we're going to do, keeping that handy so we can see where we're going to be able to mask up in a little while. So we'll check our flow. There we go. And what we're going to do is basically give everything that's needed in white. I'm just checking everything so that I know what I'm doing, making sure how we're going to do this. Okay, right, so all we're doing is building the colour up. Again, air pressure set at about 10 psi. And we're just going to build it up how we want it on here. As I say, I do keep looking just to see how this is going to look. So it's from that point back to there. So we'll just paint up what we need to. Not forgetting the wheel wells, obviously they were white. And we're just going to go getting it all down what we need. Having a good look, keeping an eye on what we're doing, just building it up. Right, so again, I'm not trying to paint. People with an airbrush think it's just a case of throwing paint on. That's not how it works really. You're trying to get a nice fine layer of paint. So the paint does its job. But you're not blasting it on. So you can see that bit there compared to there is very white, but I'll come back and do that again and build it up to how I want it, just like so. You see that's starting to get the colour that we want. And we'll just build it up. We'll turn the model around at a later point and get the other side of the wheel well, and just carry on. Getting everywhere, just laying the paint down finely. Don't throw the paint in, it's not going to work if you do that. It's going to look just like you hand brushed it badly. It'll be too heavy. I'm just going to do this bit. Remember, at this end we have metallics again, which are around that last bit, so we can get our paint a little bit heavier if you want on the larger areas and lay it down really nicely, making sure the paint is going nice and flat, making sure you're coming into the angles. The lower the air pressure, the closer we can get to the model, and that will just build that colour up just like that, which is all we need. Into the main wheel wells as well, getting deep into those wheel wells we're going to need to do. So just building the colour up gently. Using the model by turning it, you'll find you can get into anywhere you want. I mean, I'm not that skilled with an airbrush, not yet, but I'd still rather do this than use a brush. And then we'll get into all the rest of the areas that we need to do, right out to the wings. Getting a mottled look like I wanted. Don't forget, before you come back into something, let the paint dry. I tend to use a 0.2 needle, and that allows me the ability to draw or paint in smaller areas and create the look that I want. Missed the air brake out, as the air brake itself will be red, so we want to miss that bit. All we're doing, as I said, just getting the paint down neatly. I've watched people online before and they use an airbrush and they plaster the paint on, and I don't think that gives that good a finish. This is how I prefer it. I mean, everybody's different. If it works for you, do it. I'm not saying you've got to do it like this. There's no defined way of doing anything. Let that dry off. Come round on this side. Getting in the wheel wells. Making sure all the paint is going in how we want it. It's alright, I get distracted on another part. So get those wheel wells nice and painted in. Again, getting your pylons with the paint on. We'll do the tops from them in a little while. Again, making sure you get the side of your flaps, just like so. Again, just coming in. If you go too heavy, don't worry, just walk away from it, move away from it on another part. And that'll allow that paint to dry, kick back, and then you can change it to however you want. So just laying it down. You can see that part is drying up now. It's starting to look exactly how we want it. Keep checking everything as you go. So that's our first layer, nearly completed. So they're starting to look okay, and our grey pre-shading showing up quite nice. So all we're going to do now is just tidy it all up. Get it all in where we want it. Checking on the edges where the white goes to. Just making sure we've got everything in that we need. It's more irritating than doing your model and then finding stuff and you ain't painted. You've got to come back again, possibly ruining everything else. Turning it round. We're just literally redoing parts that we want to get. Still retaining that mottled effect that we were looking for earlier. Come back to this side. Right. Got another little area here to do. Okay. darker area in the middle. All we're going to do is just lighten it up slightly. And we've got our other parts just to get some white into. And of course, as I said, this door want to be a little bit more, the undercarriage bay wants to be a little bit better done. So all we're doing now is just making everything look as though it should be there. Coming back, so just pushing it down, getting in all the areas you need to get, and that is basically that. So I'm just going to paint up some of the auxiliary parts, other parts of the pylons. I've got some missiles to paint, so I'm just going to do those, and then we come back, mask up and ready for the extra grey, extra dark sea grey. Okay, well, the white was given about 10 minutes to dry. Then I started on the masking, so it's all masked up and we're ready now for Alclad mil-spec ALCE 001, which is RAF extra dark sea grey. So I'll give it a mix. We've masked all the white, so it's all ready to be laid down with a little bit of care given to it. So enough paint in the colour cup to begin with. Quick wipe round the bottle. Lay that out of the way for a moment. And then we start just checking areas to make sure we're all right. So we can then start to lay down our extra dark sea grey, being very careful to begin with. Along our masking, just so that that's correct, and then we can come this edge along nicely. So it's a little bit easier colour to spray than white. You can be a little bit more aggressive with it. Getting it down. And right the way through to the wing edges, making sure our grey is covering. We're going to make this a little bit more blotchy, but on the top side, obviously, not the underside. Just got to put some paint underneath the pylons, like so. On the bottom of the diffuser blades, so that we have all that bit covered. And the back of the blades, just to make sure that's all in, like so. This whole nose section to the radome is covered as well. course our blades for our intakes, the diffusers. Going back to our wing again. It's just literally just putting our colour down this time. We're not being as careful as we were with our white. We'll just lay it down, getting it covered. Just making sure everything is done as we want it. Let it dry and we'll go from there. Give that 30 seconds and we'll come back and we'll turn her over and start again. Right, so the underneath is dry. Our phantom is ready. Give it a quick blow over just to make sure there's not any lion dust on there. And what we're going to do now, come in with our dark sea grey and basically start painting it up. So I'll come in with the wing and I'm going to start really in close, especially on the wing join, because that's when the air recirculates itself as you blow it and dries it too quick, dries the paint too quick, especially with acrylics. It does happen with enamels as well. Try that bit off. But what this, if you get up close, you won't get that rough sandpaper texture, which means you then don't have to go and micro mesh it all down. So you can see I'm just doing a panel at a time to get the colour in without losing the pre-shading. Like so. So we're leaving as much of the pre-shading available as we want, and we can fill that in after we've got the first coat on by doing a bit of a extra layer of paint, if you like. So we'll just get this wing in, and that's all we're going to do. So all we're doing is spraying in each area to start to get it to go in to look a little bit weathered. Get the paint to go on nice and thin, and the pre-shading will show through, and then you can decide then how much pre-shading you want actually to show through on the model to how you're planning to do it. We're not quite in it there. And then we'll do the flaps, get them all in. Okay. So when you've got one wing done, you just want to go over it uniformly with a very small amount of paint coming out. like so. Now I'm perfectly happy with that. If I can show you up there a little bit, you'll see the pre-shading is showing through, but it's not too heavy, which is exactly what we're looking for, especially on this scale. Right, now I've got to go across. I'm going to do exactly the same on the whole model, and I'll come back and we'll do some bleaching of the panels. Right, so the main part of the aircraft is done. Now we're going to come in with a little bit of bleaching the wings and the top of the fuselage, just to break up that grey block, if you like. So what I'm going to use, I've got my dark sea grey already, but instead of using white, I'm going to use some RAF medium sea grey. The reason behind this is, if you put white in, it's gonna take the bleaching a bit too far. So all I've done is I put a couple of drops in from the pipette into our dark sea grey, just to give it a little bit lighter colour. So I mix that in, check our paint flow and get the right colour through, and you'll see it'll change to a lighter colour very shortly. We've now got our lighter colour through, so I'm just checking everything. Okay, and all we're going to do is just pick out bits of panel where the sun would bleach it. I'm not going to be too precise. I'm just going to literally tone it a little on the centre of the panels, drawing the panel shape but in the panel, like so, and then blotting it down. Anywhere else where the paint's going to get a hiding, remember this is an ocean going aircraft, so it's all going to be weathered with the sea, the wind and everything else that goes along it, but especially the salt. I'm not going to do too much, I'm just going to blot it in, being irregular. Most people say I'm irregular anyway. So just building that up. And then coming to the top of our area. And just creating a little blockage, just creating just a little bit of an effect. We're not trying to spray everything, we just want to break up that dark grey. Of course, along the front, along the top of the engine nacelles, just giving it that little bit of colour changing. But only where the sun is really going to beat down on it. Just do this side quickly, this wing. We're not trying to colour it. The paint we're using isn't designed for the whole aircraft, so we're literally just making blocks of where the sun would bleach on the proper aircraft, There we go. Okay, so that's nice, but don't forget your main fins, which we'll do shortly. What we'll do, we'll get our fin, and this is slightly lighter, but that won't matter too much. We'll just paint our fin in. Obviously that end bit's got to be metal, and we'll use metallics for that. If I get it right, that is. Right, so that's our main paintwork sorted. But now we've got a little bit in the colour cup. Now to blend it all in, a little bit more in there. Just a bit. All we do, we just go over the whole model gently. What that does, it literally just blends in our slightly different colour that we've just painted and making it look more realistic. That's all we're doing. Right, so that's the colour. Now, I've got some more masking to do. We're going to clean up the airbrush, and we're going to come back with some metal paints, some metallic paints, and we're going to do the clamshell with a mix and match of alclad different metals. We've got the rear wings to do, obviously. I've got a few little ancillary parts to paint up, like that. It's looking good, and of course you've got a different colour paint in here, so it'll be slightly bleached. So if I just move that out of the way, this by the way is dry. These are enamels, but this is dry. Right, so we're now coming into our glassware as such, and we want this to be slightly different colour, so we use what we've got in the colour cut now. Literally going over it all to make sure that's there. That's that one. We've got this little beauty here. And we have the front. It's lovely. Right, anything else we need to do while I'm thinking about it? No, all looking good. So we'll clean the airbrush up, get mask up the rear, and go for there. Thanks for watching.